Good evening. Thank you for coming. Welcome to a presentation and discussion to help with your knowledge, with your understanding, and ultimately your decision as we head into the most important vote in Alberta's history. I'll start with a little bit of housekeeping. Bathrooms are found on this wall to the left. Great big entrance says bathrooms. Emergency exits if we need them. There's one on each one of the walls on this building. The door you came in, those two sides, and right over here. And of course, if you have not yet signed your intent to vote yes for a referendum on independence, just find people with one of these sitting at the table in the back. They're more than happy to help. Our evening's feature, well, it was supposed to be two engaging speakers tonight, but we just had a cancellation from Jeff Rath, unfortunately. He came down ill, he made it as far as Nisku and had to turn around and go home. So Mitch is going to carry the day for us. Our aim, however, is to have a respectful, informative session. Any disruptions, we'll get that person out of here real fast. And at the end of the presentation, there are always questions. The question and answer will happen after our speaker has finished. If you have a question, there's two ways to participate. If you go over to the donations table, little white cards, you can write it down. I'll read out your question. We'll get an answer for you. If not, we'll ask people to stand up at this microphone. We'll line you up and we'll ask some questions and we'll get some answers and have a great discussion after Mitch is done. With the housekeeping out of the way, I'll introduce myself. I'm David Goff, I'm your MC, and I am absolutely honored to stand before you as a supporter of the project, but also someone passionate about the Stay Free Alberta mission to achieve a referendum for Alberta's independence and prosperity. By this time, you have probably heard of different groups and individuals dedicated to the education and promotion of Alberta independence. Stay Free Alberta is unique, however. A freestanding, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization with a single focused mission. Created last fall in response to the opportunity for a citizen-initiated petition to drive a constitutional referendum, the current SFA petition was officially issued by Elections Alberta on January 3rd, and we have until May 2nd to gather approximately 178,000 valid signatures. That's the mission. And here we are this evening. I mentioned Stay Free Alberta must be a citizen-initiated action, and we have that actual citizen here with us tonight. Mitch Sylvestre is the owner and operator of Sylvestre Sporting Goods, a well-established business in Bonnyville since 1989. Bit of an understatement, but he has become actively involved in political advocacy over the last few years. And Mitch is an advocate for the people, known for his honesty, for his integrity. I believe you'll find his remarks straight from the heart and straight from his love for Alberta. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Mitch Sylvestre.
Good job. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Edmonton, I guess, for me. We've had a busy week. Lots of you guys may have seen the video that we put out yesterday where the guy brought a bullet in my store and said, hey, this is for Mitch. Actually caught him. He's being charged. So, yeah, I had 50 at least calls yesterday from people in my area telling me I know who that guy is. So as a consequence to that, the police have a hold of him. He went to Lloydminster yesterday and said, hey, there's a misunderstanding. I said, I don't know how you can misunderstand that. He terrorized the girls behind the counter. The one was so scared she wanted to quit, and she was probably my best till girl I've had for years and years, but she actually decided to stay. So I'm very happy that she did. So as a consequence to that, he terrorized the girls. I was not in the store. And he tried to say that that was a plastic bullet that he used. And he brought it in the store today. He gave it to the RCMP, and they went and they brought it to one of my girls there, and she said, hey, I'm a hunter. I've been in this store for years. That's not a real bullet. I know the difference. That's not what he had in his hand. So they went back to the video, and of course, she was correct. Do you agree that the province of Alberta should cease to be a part of Canada to become an independent state? So let's understand something about that question. That question is directly out of the Clarity Act. We already had a question that was, they refused, basically. So we took that question right out of the Clarity Act. That does not mean become a 51st state. All right? I've been to Washington. Actually, we had a press conference before. It wasn't a secret. We went and talked to them, and they made it very clear that it's very hard, even from their side, to make that happen, because they have to get 70% of the support in both houses, and they said the Democrats would never agree to that. And from their perspective, as Republicans, they said that the Democrats would want D.C. and Puerto Rico added as U.S. states, and they would never agree to it. So it would be just good for everybody to understand that it's a very hard process. It's not something that any of our people want. Less than 10% of our people want it. And I think it's a moot point. All right, so what about that guy from Edmonton across the floor? How the heck does that work? We're going to have our first unelected majority. They keep that up. I don't know. I actually am quite shocked that that's happening here in Alberta, but we live in interesting times. All right, we desire, and every Canadian desires, that the great trade of the prairies shall go to enrich our own people in the East, to build up factories and the workshops of Eastern Canada, and contribute in every way to its prosperity. I got some bad news for you. That's never changed. We are and have always been a colony of the East. And I'm going to make it very clear to you before I'm done. So this is how it started in 1904 when they annexed Alberta. There was never a vote. They annexed Alberta. Screw the West, we'll take the rest. We've always been in a business arrangement. Every province combined in a buying group should make every other province better off. As a cumulative, you can buy better. You should be able to help each other earn. However, that's not the way it works. How this works is this way. Screw the West, we'll take the rest. They don't need our votes. They don't need Alberta seats, and they behave like it. If you were in a business arrangement with a group of people that actually even said that, never mind we're doing it on a day-to-day basis, would you stay in it? Is my question. And in 1980, Marc Lalonde, the Minister of Finance and author of the National Energy Program, said, we could not let Alberta become the center of economic power in Canada. And I want to ask you, why not? If we're all on the same team, the capital could stay in Ottawa, and we could produce oil and gas to the benefit of every single Canadian, not just Albertans. Why would they try and shut our oil patch down? I just don't get it. From a purely business perspective, I don't understand that kind of thinking. Can you play that, Benita? All right, so what our Premier is telling us here is that she's saying that we have a $27 billion surplus after we pay everything here in Alberta. Actually, she didn't put excise taxes in that, and she didn't use the numbers from the pension plan in that, so it's actually a $47 billion surplus, but it sounds better coming from her than from me. And I've had multiple meetings with the Premier, and I asked her in actually September, at the end of September, I said, I noticed we didn't get any major projects from Ottawa. Why? Everybody else seems to get them. Why did they not give some to Alberta? The most disgruntled province in all of Canada, and they made zero effort to give us anything at all. And why would they behave like that? I don't understand. Look at BC and look at Quebec and Ontario. There are lots of major projects, but none for Alberta. Doesn't that seem a little bit out there to all of you? Like if you had a province that was the literal engine of the country, had trillions of dollars in assets, that would benefit the entire country, why would you do it on purpose to antagonize them? Because that's what this did. All right, so how else do they antagonize Alberta? By blocking pipelines, tanker bans in the West only. Everybody in the room understands that 1 million barrels of oil a day come into Quebec down the St. Lawrence with the very same boats. But we can't have those boats going on the West Coast and block oil and gas investment. And just understand that by blocking that investment, that doesn't mean that that money doesn't get invested. It just doesn't get invested here. Like, right? They take that money somewhere else and invest it. And the carbon tax, which was ruled illegal in Alberta because it increases cost of production. And what do? The Supreme Court upholds it. I don't understand. Nowhere else in the country, and literally almost nowhere else in the world, do they have carbon tax. None of the big oil-producing nations have carbon tax. And we give Ottawa $47 billion every single year. That's $40,000 per Alberta household. That's a one-way traffic. That's after everything comes back here. Nearly 3/4 of the Senate is appointed on Trudeau's advice. At the time, that was a Justin Trudeau thing. On the Liberals' advice. They don't think like us, obviously. And Western Canada has a population of 11.7 million people and has 24 senators. Atlantic Canada has a population of 2.4 million people and has 30 senators. Alberta, with a population of 4.4 million people, has 6 senators. And everybody says, oh, well, represented by population is not a deal, except when it comes here. Then they say this is representation by population. So remember how skewed that chart is. So we look here, and we have 14 and 14 is 28. That gives us 70 seats, plus 34, that's 104. Let's put the 3 on top. That's 107 for the entire half of the country. Ontario has 121. Add 78 to that, that's 199. New Brunswick has 10, that's 209, 220, 224, 231. So we have, what, 104, 105, and they have 231 in the East. So how does that work? If representation by population doesn't work for the Senate, why should it work for the House? I just don't understand. Confederation is designed to work exactly the way it is working. Keep Alberta a colony. Supreme Court justices by region, 2 for all of Western Canada, 3 for Ontario, 3 for Quebec, and 1 for the Maritimes. Equalization payments. Do you notice how much Alberta, Saskatchewan get? Look at Quebec. How does Quebec become a have-not province? It's very simple. They don't put Hydro-Quebec in their balance sheet. So the biggest industry doesn't go in their balance sheet. However, our oil patch goes in the balance sheet. So they become a have-not province, and we become a half province, and we don't get anything, and they get $13.3 billion a year, and that's every year. Year after year after year. How does that work? So I'm going to share something with you. We could take, let's go there. We'll do this first. Per taxpayer, transfer payments. Manitoba gets $5,800 per taxpayer per year. New Brunswick, $6,500 per taxpayer per year. Quebec, $2,800. Nova Scotia, $5,800. PEI, $6,100 per taxpayer. So they're buying votes with our money. That's $13,000 per household in New Brunswick, if you have a partner. And the Constitution. Well, you see how that's all stacked up and how that's designed. You need the support of 7 out of 10 provinces and 50% of the population to open the Constitution. So how many of those provinces are going to want to open the Constitution based on the deal they get? Not going to happen. And you need the support in the House of Commons and the Senate. So the Senate is basically liberal. Are we going to get that? And I want to ask you a question. How the hell does Quebec get a veto? How does that work? They didn't even sign the Constitution. How can they get a veto? And then we need approval by the PMO-appointed Supreme Court. So our Premier said in our questions, our 9 questions that we're going to do on October 19th, that we're going to open the Constitution. It's impossible. It hasn't happened in 120 years. It will never happen. It's a distraction. And I'm not going to rag on Danielle, just so you know. We've got an ability to collect our signatures, and we've got an ability to have a vote. That's all we could have ever asked for. All the rest is distraction. All right, Canada Pension, let's see how that works. Look who overpays. Is anybody close? Alberta overpays in every single program. EI, we overpay by $1.5 to $2 billion a year. Canada Pension, we've overpaid by $53 billion. Everybody else except for BC is a net taker. Alberta is by far the biggest contributor. Why is that? Because we work more. Our kids work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. People that work in car plants in Ontario work 36 hours a week, but guess what? At the end, everybody gets the same pension. So, Mr. Kinney, before he was fired, he commissioned the LifeWorks report. Bill Morneau, Finance Minister of Canada, helped build that report. And what does that report say? That report says, and I want you to understand something before I go there. We contribute $9 billion a year. Our workers pay CPP $9 billion a year. Our seniors collect $6 billion, right? So there's a $3 billion overage. Ontario, in the CPP Act, back in the 60s, said, you know what? We don't want to pay more than our share. So if that's the case, we want that overage put into a fund just for us, plus interest accrued, that we can call on that fund at any time we choose. But they never had any idea that Alberta would be the biggest over-contributor. So how much money, according to the LifeWorks report, does Canada Pension owe Alberta seniors? $336 billion. And that was 2 years ago. CPP says they're getting 9.5% interest, but so 9.5% times 2 is another $60 billion. So they actually owe us $400 billion. Why has the Premier not called that back? She could have called that back by now. I don't understand. I literally don't understand. It would be by far the biggest asset we have in Alberta. When I became Premier, I thought I could fix everything in 6 or 7 months, but everything's broken. I've hosted the Premier on 3 Premier dinners in the last 26 months. $250 a plate, 800 plates, sell out every time. I was the fundraiser of the year for the UCP this year. I raised more money for her than anybody. 2 years ago, I was also the CA Chair of the year for the province. So I'm committed to UCP. All right, I help her out. So as a consequence to that, she comes and does dinners, and that pays for all of our activity for our CA every year. And we use that money to do whatever we need to do. However, let's not ignore the last 10 years of Liberal government. Alberta is probably far and away the richest piece of real estate in the world. We have trillions of dollars worth of oil. We're big in agriculture, huge in forestry, clean water, lots of mining, we have lots of coal. And we'd be very naive to think that people don't want what we have. I've been saying for 3.5 years, I've never been political. I got involved with this, and in 3 months after organizing a bunch of rallies and getting a whole bunch of people to attend them, I saw that we were speaking to ourselves. Yes, it was feel good. Yes, it felt like you belonged to a tribe and everybody was really happy to be in the same room together, because in those days, they were trying their best to divide us. So all the COVID people on one side of the flag or the other all of a sudden get to go together and see that they have a lot in common and are not by themselves out there. But the whole thing is that at that point, I realized that we have to talk to government. So that's why I got involved with the UCP. If we do not talk to government, we cannot make change. But what we have happening here is that we'd be very naive to believe that the Europeans don't want what we have, because I'm sure they do, because they don't have what we have. What about the Chinese? Chinese want what we have. There's no doubt about it. Historically, people have gone to war for what their neighbors have. Mr. Polyev explained something. He said socialism is a problem. He said Nazi socialism, Soviet socialism, and narco-socialism are all forms of socialism that move at different speeds, but always to the same destination. Impoverished health for the many and special powers and wealth for the few. So why would Mr. Polyev be concerned with socialism? And what does socialism do? What socialism does is it takes away competition. That's why big business is interested in socialism. Because if they have no competition, they get to set prices and do whatever they want. And we'll get more to that later. So Mr. Polyev addresses the socialism issue, so I don't have to. So, when plunder, that, Benita, somebody hit present on that, because I don't know why that's flipping in and out. Benita, you here? It's okay, I'll be right back. Okay, when plunder, can somebody go to my computer over there and just push, use the mouse and hit present in the top right corner? Oh, there it is, thank you. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. So does anybody in the room, hands up, believe the Liberals are stealing from us? Okay, so that's a lot of people. All right, so you know the problem, right? Everybody understands the problem. An audit of $187 billion worth of Liberal infrastructure spending finds 20,000 missing projects. That means they were paid for but not built. 20,000 of them. And the report from the Auditor General of Canada says that in 54% of contracts, they found evidence to show that the services were delivered. However, in 46% of contracts, they found that federal organizations had little to no evidence to support that deliverables were received. This is from the Auditor General of Canada in 2025. So they're acknowledging that 46% of federal government projects were not built. Where'd the money go? Where'd the money go? And I want to ask you a question. How come nobody looked into it, and how come nobody went to jail? Do we have justice in this country if this is real, and this is real? Does anybody in the room believe we elected kings? So if they're above the law, and they're clearly above the law, are they kings? Mr. Gilbo, accused of siphoning $254 million into his own company, he still has it. Mr. Trudeau, $400 million in a green slush fund, he still has that as well. When Mr. Carney asked about that, he says, oh, that was then, don't worry about it. So we've got $654 million there that we have missing and we're not looking. $250 million for a vaccine factory that never produced a vaccine. We're at $1 billion. Does anybody in the room remember when that federal MP had to resign over ordering a $16 glass of orange juice? That's how far we've come in 10 years. How many ethics violations does Mr. Trudeau have? 82? Those are all crimes. An ethics violation is a crime. And when you catch them, RiveCan was a $75 million scandal. What did they do? The judge sealed it for 75 years. What's that all about? So the judiciary is in on it too. How can Alberta negotiate with those people? They're criminals. Plain and simple. How come nobody's looking into any of that? Because they don't want you to know. Mr. Trudeau spent $11,000 million on overseas gender programs. Does anybody believe that? Does anybody believe that he spent $11 billion on overseas gender programs? Well, let me share with you something that I'm not sure, but I think this may happen. He would go to the president of a country and he'd say, you know what, I'll give you $1 billion, give me $900 million back. And what do you think would happen? That's money laundering, is what that's called. It's out of the country and they can't find it. But you know what? I want you to understand something. That's borrowed money, right? That money's borrowed money because you're running deficit budgets every single year. So you're going to pay interest on that money. And I want you to understand something. Who the heck are we paying the interest to? They write a number on a piece of paper, and I don't know the answer to that. I'm just asking you. I got a feeling I might know. But why are we paying interest on that money? Foreign interference is the greatest strategic threat facing Canada, says CSIS. That's our FBI. So what are they interfering in? Elections. Trudeau must reveal which 11 federal candidates China reportedly aided. Has he done that? Did he do that? Of course he didn't do that. Why? Because they were all liberals. Right? And if that's the case, and this is what he said, and I remember him clearly saying it, well, it didn't affect the outcome of the election anyway. But how do you know? Because they did it before the results were in, right? He won the clearest majority with like 35% public support. You remember that? You have to have some pretty well-placed votes to win a national election with less than 40% support. But he couldn't find these people, or he wasn't interested, so I found one for him. This is Nancy Ng. She's a cabinet minister. She had a failed subsidy program that gave away more than $130 million on the promise of promoting business startups. It never happened. And they're asking her, where's the money? And she said, I don't know. She never went to jail. And 120,000 mail-in ballots were uncounted. Do you remember how close that last election was? This is the last election. Do you remember how close that election was? Some seats were like one vote. But they don't care about election integrity. So what does that do to our system? If we do not believe that we have integral elections, do you have any faith in the system at all? And I want to ask you a question. Will we ever win another government if these people are controlling it? The RCMP are aware of over 4,000 organized crime groups operating in Canada. Well, that's funny that they should talk about that, because look what happened in Mexico this week. They took out a crime boss. Those are 4,000 organized crime groups with a head and a boss here in Canada. How come? Because we have no money laundering and racketeering laws here. And we also have very porous borders, so they can move their stuff in and out of the country. Canada's become one of the biggest fentanyl-producing places in the world. Mr. Eby checks 1% of the cargo that comes into the Port of Vancouver and the Port of Prince Rupert. So as a consequence to that, the door's wide open for fentanyl production. In Fox Creek, Alberta, they found 7,600 kilograms of chemicals used in making fentanyl. 7,600 kilograms. 15,000 pounds, just about 8 tons of chemical to make fentanyl, which apparently, fentanyl the size of a piece of salt out of a salt shaker could kill you. So how much fentanyl can they make with that much chemical? And it's obviously a problem with the Americans. When we went there and have a discussion with them, one of the biggest concerns they have was their northern border and drugs. Well, let's go back. We're a little quick there. And according to StatsCan, child sexual abuse, human trafficking, extortion, and child pornography have increased exponentially, and that's Stats Canada, in the last 10 years. All of those things are organized by organized criminals. Identity theft, firearms crimes. We'll get to that in a minute. Mr. Carney says in April of 2025 that the biggest enemy to Canada, okay, well, let's back that up. Let's try that again. I just want to hear him say it. Can you move me forward? One more? Thank you.
We're heartened by the leadership of President Xi Jinping and the speed with which our relationship has progressed in recent months. I believe the progress that we have made in
8 months, we went from China's our biggest enemy to now we're going to get into a partnership and we're going to change our entire political system with China. And we're going to sign memorandums of understanding. And guess what? They're going to bring the soldiers here to defend Canada. Are you comfortable with that? All right, back up. All right, so here's where it all starts. In 2015, Mr. Trudeau said, there is no core identity, no mainstream in Canada, and consequently, that makes us the first post-national state. What's a post-national state? New World Order. 2015. Right? Do you believe that Albertans have no core identity? We're hardworking, we're industrious, we're producers, we're intelligent, we're capable, and we work hard. We work more than anybody in Canada. That's a core identity. We're proud of what we do, we're proud of our jobs. In 1954, there was a statute in the Criminal Code of Canada that said it was illegal for media to lie to the public. However, in 2019, Bill C-39 was voted on and passed in Parliament to remove it. So it's legal for them to lie to you. So why do they want to lie to you, is my question. They're supposed to be on our side. Lying to you shouldn't even occur to them. This slide gets me in trouble. But it's not about the immigrants. This is 2015. The very concept of a nation founded by European settlers is offensive to me. Old stock white Canadians are an unpleasant relic and quite frankly replaceable. And we will replace them. So we're not mad at the immigrants. Let's just be clear. They came here, they're coming here for everything that I grew up with, everything that I had. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, work hard, you can end up with a really good life, and people are basically going to leave you alone. You're not going to be any trouble from your neighbors and everybody else, because that's the way I grew up. However, what did he do? So let's just say, he may or may not have said this. Let's see what his actions prove. 15 million immigrants into Canada since 2015. How is that sustainable? And we got 1.94 million temporary resident applications this year. And it looks like we're going to have more next year. And Peter Sutherland said, who worked for the United Nations, he said this: we must use migration to turn the English people into a minority in England. This will allow us to undermine the identity of the native English. There it is. You get enough people, the people that are there are going to lose their identity. And import a new majority that will end the very idea of England. This is critical for globalism, to take hold of England. New World Order. And there's replacement migration paper from the United Nations. If you think that they don't understand what they're doing. Canada has 33 taxes. Okay, so now let's look at this. They're lying to you, and they're bringing in immigration to destabilize our economy. 1.95 million immigrants, even if they're temporary foreign workers, whatever it is, it's like a brand new Edmonton every year. Eventually, your system gets saturated with people and you just can't take anymore. The hospitals won't take it, the schools won't take it, and everybody's mad at the Conservatives. Because, oh my God, well, how did this happen? Well, the fact of the matter is that when you have uncontrolled immigration, everybody wants to come to Canada because it's got a lot of things going on. But we also have the highest taxes in the world, 33 taxes. What does that do? That makes you poorer. They know that. They're going to hollow out the middle class by making you pay 43% tax, 43 to 53%. What does that effectively do to you? It effectively enslaves you to your jobs so you can afford to eat. It does something else that's very critical that goes back to the last slide. It's very hard for you to afford to have 3 or 4 or 5 kids. So that it effectively plays into that other thing, the replacement migration thing. You need 2 incomes to have children. When I was a young person, it was very common for young people to get married and for the women to have children, and the guy holding a regular job, say, let's plumber, electrician, could afford to go to work and could afford to pay for the wife to stay home so they could raise their families. That is not in their plan. And here they are: carbon tax, personal income tax, corporate income tax, GST, excise taxes on fuel, alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, everything else, customs duties, air travelers tax, luxury tax, provincial territorial tax, capital gains, land transfer, media tax, regulation tax, CPP tax, business tax, estate tax. Look into the estate tax. You can't even give it to your kids. They charge you 50 to 60 to 75% on estate tax. And inflation. Every year, they print more money than they need. Every year, government expands. As a consequence to that, they need to print more money. Mr. Trudeau in 2021 printed $328 billion. Mr. Trudeau spent more money than all previous Canadian prime ministers combined in his tenure. $328 billion without an audit. How did that work? So this is what happens with inflation. If you double the effective money supply, the money that you have goes in half. So for example, let me be clear here. Everybody's bought groceries. Everybody sees a $100 bag of groceries used to cost 50 bucks. But let's use an example from my store. A box of Remington Corlock 30-06 ammo that was $29.99 for 20 years is now $65. So the same box of ammo does the same, unchanged, now costs you 60 or 65 bucks. It used to cost you $29.99. So if you multiply that by everything, you understand that it costs a lot more to live. So what we've got going on now is we've got inflation, we've got replacement migration, they've changed, they're lying to you, and they're taxing the hell out of you. And I guess they're not interested in allowing you to pay it back because they cap oil production. So they borrow all this money year after year after year, and they don't want you to pay it back. They took the cap off of oil production. Guess what they just did? They signed that memorandum of understanding with our premier and increased the carbon tax 6-fold. So they just moved it over, right? They just took it from one place to the other. And if you were in a business relationship and you had just borrowed a bunch of money to expand your business, you would have to find a way to pay it back. So what they're doing is they're actually doing the opposite. They're crippling you, so you cannot pay it back. And if you think I'm kidding, Germany and Japan came to Canada with hat in hand and asked them if we would sell them natural gas. And what did Mr. Trudeau say? It's not in our business plan. How can you say that to them? It would be the equivalent of somebody coming to me and saying to me, Mitch, I want to spend $4 to $5 million a year in your store for the next 35 years. And I would say, no, I'm sorry, it's not my business plan. That's how ridiculous that is. Because Germany and Japan pay their bills. They went to Qatar and bought that. They didn't do it out. Right? They spent the money somewhere else. But it's not in our business plan to keep our people employed, our kids working, and our GDP going up. And here we go. Production cap is not a cap on emissions. It's ultimately a cap on production and Canadian prosperity, on jobs, on GDP, and on our wealth. And let's talk about the tanker ban. We discussed it briefly. Quebec imports 1 million barrels of oil a day at $70 US a barrel. $70 million a day is what they send somewhere else. And we give them $13.5 billion a year. How's that work? How do we not support our own business? How is it not against the law for them to import oil when we could easily supply it and already are supplying it for a lot of Ontario? That would create a boom. We would have a built-in customer, we would have stability, we could sell it at the same price that they're selling it at over there, be no problem. We could put our own people to work to produce our own oil to make us better off, and that's not a deal. How's that work? How does that work that they ban these boats on the West Coast, but they go down to St. Lawrence every day? And it's not about pollution, because Montreal dumps its sewage directly into the St. Lawrence without treatment. So it's not that, right? So they're not worried about the environment, because even if that boat sinks, I got a really funny story for you. Most people won't believe this, but neither did I, but I know it's true. I have a friend who works in the oil reclamation business, all right? He was telling me one day that he had a pipe burst and oil basically covered half of a tree farm. Half of the tree farm. One half had oil all over the ground, and they stopped it, and then the other half, it never went there. So he went and talked, this is a tree farmer, he went to talk to the tree farmer, and he said, "Sir, do you want me to take that oil off the ground?" And he said, "Well, of course I do." He said, "But, sir, I want you to understand something. That oil is the best fertilizer there is." He said, "Your crop will grow exponentially compared to the other side." And he showed me pictures. 2 years later, the trees on the oil side were twice as high as the trees on the other side. Little known fact about oil. How about that? Also, I go fishing in the Richardson River, which is north of Fort McMurray. You can reach into the bank and grab the oil. It's in the sand. You can literally reach it and pull it out. Best eating fish, not toxic, water's crystal clear. Just saying, FYI. That's the eye test. And this is all based on this. The carbon taxes cost Canadians billions of dollars over 5 years, hurting the economy while reducing CO2 emissions by 11.9 gigatons. China produces 11.9 gigatons of CO2 every day and a half, and the coal comes from here. Right? The only port in North America that ships coal is Vancouver. And I want to ask you a question. Do you believe that it's possible that they're using the fact that it's dirty to get our coal at a better price? 100%. And does that CO2 stay over top of China? Blows all over the place. So they're not taking it very seriously. They don't pay carbon tax, by the way. And neither does the USA, neither does China, neither does Russia, neither does Qatar, neither does Saudi Arabia, neither does Venezuela. Nobody pays it but us. How come we're the only one with the carbon tax? Because they want to keep our oil in the ground. Why? The demand for oil is going up every year. These are the countries, back one. These are the countries that pay carbon tax. None of those big oil producing countries are there. None of the big emitters are there. Alberta produces 4.6 million barrels of oil a day. We're $100 billion in debt. Norway produces 2.1 million barrels of oil a day, and they have a $1.95 US trillion oil fund. How does that work? Where's the money? They produce half as much as us, and they have $2 trillion, which would run the entire economy of the entire country of Canada. And nobody would have to pay 1 penny tax. How does this work? Where is the money? Saudi. They produce 3 things: oil, oil byproducts, and silica. Okay? We produce oil, forestry, coal, hydroelectric, natural gas, fisheries, diamond, copper, nickel, iron ore, aluminum, silver, uranium, clean water, major agriculture, major forestry, that's up on the top. We have a $2.1 trillion debt. They're $260 billion in debt. They pay no personal income tax. We pay 40%. They pay no sales tax. We pay 13%. They get a monthly check from the government, oil check, and they have free health care. How's that work? And we are number one in the world in production of uranium, potash, second in nickel, third in oil, fifth in gold, and first in fresh water, and we're not even talking about forestry. There's 600 billion trees in the boreal forest north of here, and if you've ever flown over it, you can see it. I've been fishing all over the north, and I'm going to tell you something. Those 600 billion trees, only 30 billion suck up all the CO2 that Canada produces. So we have 570 billion trees unemployed. And not only that, those trees don't suck up as much CO2 as the grasslands south of here. We're a carbon sink. But yet they're shutting our entire world down based on that carbon lie. 88% of our trade goes south. We're already landlocked. Right? We're already landlocked. If we become a free and independent country, we control our own borders. If we control our own borders, BC ships 70% of the stuff that comes into Port of Prince Rupert and Vancouver east because we're the closest port to China. How hard would it be for us to say to BC, your trains stop at the border unless you allow us to ship our product through BC? We could twin TMX. If we twin TMX, there would be no environmental consequence at all. None. Because it would be very close to the one that's already there. How much would an extra pipeline generate the province of Alberta? $26 billion a year net. And the Chinese, Taiwan, will take as much oil as we can send them. And I'm going to share with you a little known fact. Our heavy oil is much better for making diesel than sweet Texas crude. And we're selling it at a discount. Why is that? Because we have to, based on the arrangements that Ottawa's made for us. It's like the old business adage. The good news is I sold $1 million worth of stuff. The bad news is I didn't make any money, right? And that's what's going on here. There's internal deals going on with all these. You know what the differential is? The differential is what we pay less, what the Americans pay less for our oil than world price. 22%. So that oil, if you look at where that oil comes from, right up there by Fort McMurray, you go down a little bit. That's where Bonnyville is. That's where I live. And we produce 35% of Alberta's oil. That oil goes in a pipe at Coal Lake, and by the time it gets to Chicago, it's increased in 22% in value in the next day. And it's the best oil there is in the world. All the byproducts from oil come from our heavy oil. And if you think they're just attacking us in the oil business, Bill C2, now there's going to be a litany of really stupid laws coming. Okay, I want you to understand something. If you're going to own nothing in 2030, they're going to have to legislate it in. Legislation which will allow them to commit atrocities. Because there's a lot of us and a few of them. So they have to be very careful that they prepare themselves so that they can break the laws, or the laws that we have now. Bill C-293 says that in the case of an emergency which they will determine, they can come to your land and seize your farm and your herd. Right? And they killed, 315 ostriches? That's the entire herd. Canada Food Inspection Agency went in there, didn't test a bird, and killed the whole works of them. That's muscle flexing. That's a muscle flexing exercise. That's all that is. There's no logical reason for it. They wanted to see if they could. Pfizer said, the Pfizer papers, they tried to hide them for 75 years. Why? The U.S. judge got that out, and now that's out there. Read it. It's required reading. And this week, Pfizer whistleblower reveals $11 million payout to influential Canadian government officials. Are we looking into it? No. No, why should we? All right, now we're going to get into some really stupid rules. If you resist one thing in your entire life, digital ID, digital currency. C8, if they're going to be able to take your bank accounts away, if C8 goes through, they'll allow them to kick you off the internet with no due process. And they don't have to justify it after. Bill C-15 makes ministers, federal ministers, above the law. It will give them the power of kings. So they don't have to deal with government precedent. They don't have to worry, because they can make a determination of how things are going to work and live by it. So conflict of interest, not going to be a deal. Environmental, not be a deal. Lobbying rules, not going to apply. Labor standards, not going to apply. Privacy bias will not apply. Anything a minister administers, he can do whatever the heck he wants. There's a really good video on this on YouTube of a conservative MP talking to the gentleman that brought this in. And he said, yeah, it would be very convenient for us to do this. Unchecked power, the power of kings. Why are they passing these laws? Now, this is the one that I'm all bent out of shape over. Bill C-9, the hate bill. This is a very dangerous bill. It uses the concept of naming a group. Who would name the group? The Privy Council, the Liberals. So they would decide, for example, that everybody in this room is a hate group. Okay? So by being part of this group makes you guilty. And then there's an unlimited forfeiture clause, which you can do whatever they want to you. So let's read this. A political entity, the Order of Council, names a group a hate group, pursuant to 83.01. From there, the members of the group are all guilty by virtue of the possession of the symbol. Mark Miller, Liberal, in debate, names that the Bible and Torah as hate. So reading the Bible is now going to be hate. The conservatives, all of them, voted for this. They didn't stand up. They didn't say, no, we don't agree with this. No, this is unchecked power. This is ridiculous. No, they didn't. So it's going to be my job to call them out, and I'm going to be on it first thing tomorrow. There's no religious defense. It means the group is Christians, Torah Jews, and because he said other religious texts, that means the Quran. They're not fussy. They don't care what religion they're attacking. They want to attack them all. How many churches have been burnt in Canada in the last number of years? Say 600. 600. And if that's not true, blame Leighton Gray. And I believe it's true. This enables the government to target the religious individuals as part of the group. This is exceptionally evil, broad, and typical only of communist countries. So how could this possibly go wrong? Now, this is the part that I find is amazing. There's an unlimited forfeiture clause. So what is it? Whatever they determine it to be. So first of all, the Privy Council is telling you that you're part of this group, and then they get to determine whatever the punishment is. So is it your house? Is it your bank account? Is it your life? You are the person by which the means of the offense was committed. So just by being part of the group. Why are the Christian churches not going ballistic over this? I don't know. There is the most problematic forfeiture clause ever written. What happens next is this. Now you interpret this. Listen to this. May, in addition to any other punishment imposed, be ordered by the presiding provincial court judge or judge to be forfeited to His Majesty in right of the province in which that person is convicted for disposal. What does that mean? That disposal mean moving you out of the country, moving you out of your house, or getting rid of you. But my question is this. How can that be that open-ended? How come there's not definitions wrapped all around that? Has it ever happened anywhere in the world where they picked a religious group and disposed of them? And are we naive enough to believe that just because we live here, that that couldn't happen to us? If they're not thinking of doing this, what the hell is this all about? Right? What is this all about? We don't need that. Do we have hate crimes as problems here in this country? Very minimally. Socialism is precisely the religion that must overwhelm Christianity. In the new order, socialism will triumph by first capturing culture via infiltration of schools, universities, and churches. Has anybody noticed any of that going on? Are you afraid, as I am, of what's going on here? Because I'm telling you, and here, it doesn't stop there. Do you know what the red flag law is? Well, I'll tell you what the red flag law is. The red flag law says that if he tells the RCMP, that would be you, yeah, that I have guns that he doesn't approve of, they could come to my house without a warrant and seize all my guns. And then I would have to go to the RCMP and prove that I'm innocent. So what happens to countries after the citizens are disarmed? So they're setting that into motion based on all the stuff that's, and what are they using? All these mass shootings to say people shouldn't have guns. Do you know that there's a group of people, a very identifiable group of people, that have committed 75% of the mass murders in the last 10 years? And did you see the RCMP? I'm not going to name it. I'll let you do the work. RCMP said, we're not going to pick on this particular group of people when they did that press conference with the Tumbler Ridge murders. Why? Why are they allowing that? They know what's going on. They know these people. That person had her guns taken away by the RCMP, and they gave them back. Mother went to get them back, and who did he shoot first? Mother and brother. Right? Same thing happened in that arena in Texas. Charlie Kirk, victim of the same group. Honduras, population of 8.2 million people, banned citizens from owning guns. Highest homicide rate in the world. Switzerland, population 8.2 million people, requires citizens to own guns and have the lowest homicide rate in the world. Do you know what they do? They train their young men and women to become soldiers, and then they send them home with their automatic weapons. Not pop guns like we have here, fully automatic military weapons. Actual assault rifles. Not semi-automatic, not jimmied, not so they can't be as effective as they're meant to be. They have two of those, one or two of those in every house in the country, and two trained people that know how to use them. And guess what? Nobody gets shot there. And which country did nobody invade the last two world wars? Do you think that's an accident? I don't think you want to be climbing up a mountain and having the guys in the house that know how to shoot shooting at you while you're doing it. I mean, that's literally the way it would be. The Americans understood this. Who do you need? Why do you need guns? Why do the citizenry need guns? What could you possibly? Well, you don't need guns. Everybody says the same thing. To protect yourself from government. That's why you need guns. You don't need guns to shoot a deer. You can shoot a deer with a bow and arrow. I know that's hard to hear, but it's the literal truth. If you're not seeing it, I'm going to have to try harder. But what I'm trying to explain to you is this. Step by step by step, they're taking all of your rights and freedoms away from you. And we got the lowest GDP in the industrialized world. There is absolutely no way that we can have a 1.4% growth domestic product in 10 years unless you try here. You have to try to do that. There's no other way you can do that here in this country. They consciously suppress our economy. Ireland has 40% GDP growth in the last 10 years. What's Ireland got compared to Canada? And Mr. Trudeau, because he couldn't explain his $400 million and his $400 million green slush fund and his 82 ethics violations, hands the keys over to Mr. Carney. So first thing that happens is in May alone, $16.2 billion worth of capital fled Canada. Because why? Because they understand what's going on. Over the last 4 months, nearly $84 billion has left. That's our financial genius who's heading our country. And I want you to look down. What Carney ultimately wants is a technocratic dictatorship justified by climate alarmism. Do you know what the technocratic dictatorship is? It's big business, unelected business, running the country. Monarchs. In the early 1900s, the head of Germany decided that the people of the Congo needed to harvest all the rubber in the country for him. So all of these poor black people harvested the best rubber in the world because at that very time is when cars were coming. So they took advantage of those poor people and made them harvest all the rubber so that the king could benefit. Now I want you to understand something about these guys. They are people. They're all people. They put their socks on one at a time in the morning, and they're no different than you. So you have a decision to make. You have to understand that, do you want them to have everything that you produce or 50% of it? So they're taking you and they're saying to you, well, I want you to go to work and you can give me half of what you earn. No matter what you do, you just got to give me half. If you don't give me half, I'll put you in jail. That's what they're doing to you. And that's exactly what they're doing to you, I guarantee it. So he wants a technocratic dictatorship, big business running the whole country like it's their own business, and all of you like you're their employees. And is that happening? Well, we talked about an industrial carbon tax, 6 times carbon tax, which is going to increase the price of production of a barrel of oil from $6 to $10 a barrel. And on top of that, the deal that our premier signed, that memorandum of understanding, we have to have pathways, which is the right to be able to produce oil. We have to pay that price. That's going to cost us $20 to $50 billion to take CO2 out of the air, liquefy it, put it into the ground, very toxic. If it comes out, and they don't know where it's going, they're just injecting it into the ground, it increases production in oil wells. But what else does it do? If it comes up, it'll kill everybody in this room in minutes. That's how toxic it is. And why? Why do we need carbon-sucking machines in Alberta? We don't. It's nonsense. And our economy shrunk by 0.3%. He's doing it on purpose. He understands what he's doing. He's done this before in other countries. And he pumps $33 billion into bureaucracy. Why wouldn't he build us, just for example, let's a stupid example, take that $33 billion and build us a pipeline that would produce $26 billion a year for us every year for the next 50 years. The return on investment on that is pretty good. Instead, he puts it into bureaucracy. What do? Nothing. What they do is it's equivalent, if you have a housekeeper in your house, and then you hire 5 more, your house doesn't get much cleaner, and you haven't accomplished anything, you just increased your wages 5-fold. That's what bureaucracy is. They don't produce anything. They don't build oil. They don't raise cows. They don't put crop in the ground. They don't do what you do. He knows that. 103 conflicts of interest in 8 months. A conflict of interest for him is if he actually benefits or profits from business as Prime Minister of Canada that he owns. That's always been a crime in this country. 103 in 8 months. Carney has secured 42 contracts since becoming Prime Minister. All have been with Brookfield. That's his company. He pledged $4.3 billion to the Ukraine at the G7. 2 days later, Brookfield got a contract for $4.3 billion to rebuild the Ukraine. How's that work? Could you imagine the price? The price doesn't matter. The profit margin would be huge, because if you're not having to to bid on it, there's no limit. That's what monopolies do. Got a story for you. See that maid thing down there? All right, we're the highest, we kill more people per capita than anybody in the world with assisted suicide. So I have a gentleman, a friend, who came to me 3, 4, 5 days ago, and he's a very hardcore Christian. You wouldn't know it because he doesn't broadcast it, but he helps people. He helps a former gang guy and helping him get his life in order. This guy's 50 years old, was in a gang till he was 35, got out of it, and has now got a business where he's growing legal marijuana. So he had a visit from a guy, went to his house, and said, I want 30% of that. And he said, no, not given to you. So he promptly went to the RCMP and said, look, this guy's just trying to extort me. So it didn't work. So the next day, 7 guys knock on his door with baseball bats and pipes. So he saw this. He had an axe up on his wall, and he took the axe, and as they were coming at him, he swung the axe at this guy. The guy put his hand up, and he basically cut his wrist off. Okay? And then he proceeded to get a real good licking from the other guys. So after he managed to get up, this is in Bonnyville. This happened like last week. He managed to get up and grab his SKS, which is a rifle. And everybody started to run away because they didn't want to get shot. And he did shoot at them and put 4 bullets into their car. And then he called my buddy. And my buddy went over there, and he said there was blood all over the place as the guy got his arm cut off. And he took this guy and brought him to the hospital. And understand this, he got beat up bad. He was hit in the head with baseball bats, he was hit with pipes. And all the way to the hospital, what is he thinking? I'm too old to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail, I won't survive it. And I didn't cause any of this. They came to my house, but I don't have a gun license. All right? So he gets into the hospital. He's got a concussion. And what happens in the hospital? The doctor offers him maid. No lie. He offers him maid. So I got an update today. Those 7 guys that came to his house have not been charged, and neither has he. So I just wanted to know that leader, that gangbanger that lost half of his arm, that's still running around there, how's that going to work out for the guy that cut it off? That's where we are today. UBI, $93 billion a year. If in liberal government want to say, as a 16-year-old, you can vote. As a 17-year-old, you will get $2,000 a month guaranteed income. If they do that to seniors, what do you think will happen to the pension fund? They won't need it. They're going to say, hey, you don't need a pension fund, we're going to give you a raise, guaranteed UBI. But the problem is that can't last. Every communist country ever, that's their big deal. The Russians said, land, bread, and peace, and handouts, ended with gulags and 20 million dead. Mao said the Great Leap Forward, Iron Rice Bowl, guaranteed income, 45 million starved. Cuba, Fidel said, year of liberation, redistributed wealth. Citizens got ration books forever, and now they flee on rafts. Venezuela, Chavez did that. Basic income, hyperinflation hit 1,000,000%. You see the pattern? Every single time the government becomes the only employer, banker, and food source, the emergency conditions never expire. So we have a corruption problem. And we don't know the half of it. I really believe that's accurate. And the only person coming to save you is you. So this is what I need. I have a friend who's a soldier. He's been according to him, he's been in every shithole war in the last 20 years. He's been to 4 war zones. He was a sniper. And he presented with us at the Calgary event at the Big Four. And this is what he said. He said, for a soldier, the price of freedom is blood. That's the currency. So we have a path out of this. Because this is always in with a promise and out with a bullet. And we don't want anything to do with that. We have to do the work now. We have a path. The Clarity Act gives us a path to legally leave the country. And I think if we don't take the advantage to do it, we'll never get the chance to do it again. Because they don't want to lose $47 billion a year net income. And I've been told by some very powerful, intelligent people that you don't think that they're just going to let you walk away with Alberta, do you? And I think it's pretty hard to believe that they would. But my response to that is you miss every shot you don't take. So it's going to take a lot of courage. There's lots of people being threatened. We started the evening with talk of one of those. He's the second guy that I have charged with uttering death threats. Now they're both going to be going to court here just like right away. So we understand that there's going to be a price to pay for this. But I don't think it's going to be even close to the price we're going to pay if we don't pay attention to this. So this is what I want you to do, because this is what you can do. You can become a canvasser and go collect signatures. It's got to be too big to rig. That's the only way we're going to win this. We're going to win this by doing the work, going to talk to people, signing up your friends and neighbors, having one-on-one conversations, because that's what we have. We're a grassroots movement. And we've come a long ways. And we've got 6 months to get this done. And we're not close to 1 million signatures. Don't let anybody fool you. That's the other side lying to you so that everybody that's scared does not sign. And nobody wants to be on a list. So if you own a gun, you're on the worst list possible, so you might as well sign. There's 350,000 of you. If you're in a Christian church and you don't want anything to do with C9, then you'd better start paying attention and you better sign. So that should be getting us right close to 1 million right there. So what I'm saying to you guys is, look, I'm asking for your help. I'll stand right beside you. Away we go. Thank you.
If you've never seen Mitch present before, it is like standing in a fire hose. And it is overwhelming and it is terrifying, but it is absolutely, we can fix this and we can win this. So if you have a question, I didn't get any paper ones up. We have a microphone right in the middle of the room here. No big long speeches, no manifestos, no life stories. Get to your questions so we can take as many as we possibly can. Max will control the timing on the microphone, and if he doesn't like what you're saying, he's going to cut you off anyways. So, Carlos, do you want to manage the line? I got it. Wonderful. You're going to need that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Good. How you doing, Carlos? Hi, Mitch.
Hello.
Okay, a couple of things. I just lost it. You mentioned about the faith groups not speaking out.
About what?
The faith groups not speaking out.
Yes.
They have.
I know, I saw it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of involved with that, if that's a new group. We had a conversation Saturday, but this has to they have to really start talking, because I really believe that they're nabbing preachers off the street in England right now.
I know, I've seen that. The other question, my name's Rob, sorry about that.
Yeah, I sat with you before the event.
Someone mentioned to me about the dollar.
Yeah.
Okay. They said, well, when we become a country, I believe that's going to happen, I hope. What about the banks? And I know the institutions should still stay the same, and I know there's a transition period. But I'm trying to figure out what to tell someone that's really concerned about the dollar, right? We won't have a dollar anymore.
Well, the dollar's going to be the U.S. dollar, I think, to start.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the way it is. I don't, because we trade everything in U.S. dollars.
Yeah.
Like 88% of our oil is all our oil is traded in US dollars, so it would be an easy transition for us. An Alberta dollar would be a great thing.
Yeah.
We would have the backing to make it a very strong currency. Lots of small countries have their own dollar, like Norway does, Sweden does, like all these countries have their own dollar. We could do ours, and that would be the very best thing. However, generally, that leads to unrest of some kind.
Yeah.
So,
but if we had if we had the US dollar, does that mean, so we're getting our pension
you'd be getting it in US dollars.
in US dollars, but would we lose 30% off of that?
Yeah, no, I trade a lot of US dollars every year. I buy lots of stuff in the US. So that's a misnomer. The product would go down. Like, for example, I'll buy a gun in US dollars for $200, but it sells in Canada for $280, right, in Canadian dollars. So the currency balances itself. So you're not getting less pension because it's being paid to you in US dollars. It's just everything will cost less.
Yeah, no, okay. I understand that. I'm just trying to figure out how to explain it to someone else when they ask me.
As far as the banks are concerned, banking
Yeah.
doesn't have to change. The TD's in the US, it's all over the place. Like, the banking can stay just the way it is.
Okay, yeah. And the other thing that was mentioned was, so we become a country, now the US can cut our cost that they're paying us for the oil. But they could do that now, couldn't they?
Say that again?
They could cut the cost per barrel of oil
Well,
when we become a country.
that depends on what we're going to do.
Yeah.
There's no reason why, if we're running our own country and we tariff BC, that we can't sell our oil anywhere in the world. We don't have to sell it to the Americans. We've got the pipeline going there right now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, and from conversations that I have with them, they'll be very happy with the free trade agreement with us. But you know what? All of this stuff is important and necessary to understand. And I'm not going to think for 1 minute that the globalists are not going to fight us really hard to keep Alberta inside their sphere of influence. Yeah. But the whole thing is that there's so much here, and we have the people and infrastructure to make it happen, that we're going to have to take a chance and do our best. I'm not. If I was in business, and I am, and I had money to invest in some place, and I had a choice to invest it in a free and independent Alberta, based on what I know, I would invest it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even hesitate. Yeah. And so will a lot of other people. Yeah. So let me talk to you about this. Okay, we've made 2 commitments. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is take the federal income tax rate off your check. Okay, so that's 20%. Nobody has ever given anybody in this part of the world a 20% raise, ever. And it's going to be on day one. The other thing we're going to do, and we'll be able to do it very easily, is double your pension. So our old timers will be getting more money, just on that $13.5 billion, right? Yeah. We don't see the federal part of your income tax at all right now. We pay $70 billion, and $70 billion is what we earn. $70 billion here. We send the federal government $70 billion. We pay $140 billion a year in tax. It costs $70 billion to run Alberta. So if we just took the federal portion off of your tax that is there, that we'll never see anyway, that's a huge benefit to Albertans. And the other thing that's going to happen is it's going to create a major boom. We'll have disposable income. On a $100,000 income, that's going to be $20,000 a year more money. That's $1,500, $1,800 a month. That's a lot of money for most people. Yep. So that's going to be a mortgage payment, and it'll be doable, very, very doable. So as a consequence to that, and if we can double our pipeline and capacity, which we possibly could, then that covers all of that for you and more.
Thank you. I'm on board with this over 100%. I've just given you some feedback of what people have been talking to me about, so I just wanted to clarify that.
We're going to build a very comprehensive plan for what this is going to look like. As soon as we get all of our, we're going to build it. We're going to start building it now. But until we get our signatures, it's a moot point.
I know.
So we're going to focus on signatures till May, and then after that, we have a constitution discussion paper built. So that's already done. We're going to take Quebec's secession plan that they have, improve it, and make sure that it applies to Alberta and apply for Albertans, and see how that works so that everybody understands what's going to happen to the money, what's going to happen to your mortgages, what's going to happen to your RSPs, what's going to happen to all that kind of stuff moving forward. It'll be very clear so that we want to take every excuse away from everybody to not think that this is going to be a great deal for them.
No, I appreciate you. Appreciate everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. Name's Michael.
Hey, Michael.
You answered one question for me on the pensions, and that it's not going to affect it, that we're going to be better off.
Let's hope, yes.
I believe we will. Another thing, when you talk about the dollar, I believe when we become an independent state, our dollar will be worth more than the Canadian dollar.
Of course.
That's
you will.
my belief.
Yes, I would, you know what, if you're thinking that Alberta was going to win the referendum and there was a vote, I would get out of the Canadian dollar.
In a
before
heartbeat.
that, I'd buy US dollars. I'm not giving anybody any advice, but I would buy US dollars just off the bat, because Canada's dollar is going to take a real big kicking
Yeah.
if Alberta leaves, because we're literally the engine of the country.
Another question I have too is, it comes to the monarchy.
Yes.
We will have nothing to do with that, will we?
No, I don't. So
Thank-
I got a story for you.
Thank you.
So let me share a story. So I got called from the English in England to do an interview on the largest political channel in England. And I had to get up at 4 a.m. It was a Sunday morning, Super Bowl Sunday. And I got up early, and they said it was going to be an 8-minute interview. And I said, well, that's interesting, that's good. So we started, and he had a real heavy accent. So I said, you're going to have to slow down so I could understand you. He thought that was pretty interesting. But anyway, so we went. He says, why do you want a free and independent Alberta? And I went through some of this stuff with him. And then he says to me, what are you going to do with the monarchy? I said, well, I think we want to be free of everybody, especially and including the monarchy. And you know what he said? You know what he did? He said, we'll put the king out of order, and click, he shut me off. After a minute and a half, we were supposed to be there for 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So what I'm sharing to you, what I'm going to tell you is this. It's a bigger deal than I think it is. I saw the same thing with the Premier when I handed her the value of freedom. And I think that that oath to the King is a big deal. Because I saw the look on our Premier's face, and I've been in situations where I can see fear in people's faces, and I could see that she said to me, well, would you consider making it the Commonwealth of Alberta, even though there are commonwealths that pay nothing to the Crown. It's just verbiage. And that's what our Value of Freedom book is called, the Commonwealth of Alberta. But however, there's no ties to the monarchy, so just saying. But she was visibly relieved. And if you watch the video of her taking her oath, it's pretty extensive. So I would suggest to you that it's a big deal, and it's a big deal to them, as I saw. I thought it was just lip service. I didn't think that, we had any ties to the monarchy. I've since changed my mind.
Yeah, good, because that's important to me, and my grandparents are from England.
Yes.
Came here, worked hard, but they're all gone. But I don't want nothing to do with them.
So why should we pay them anything?
We should not be
I
paid.
agree with you, 100%.
100%. But I'm glad, because one thing I was worried about, the pension, you've straightened that out, and I think we'd be better off. And I've signed up
Good, thank you.
to volunteer.
Good.
I'm retired, and
We need that.
Alberta needs it
I agree
to
with
be
you.
independent, period.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, Mitch.
Hi.
My name's Robin Day, and I'm interested in process as we move forward on this. I can see that Ottawa is going to move from misinformation to lawfare, but that's not going to impede the vote that I can see. And it's my understanding, once we vote yes, that the question has to be affirmed by Parliament. Now, if that's so, and they refuse to affirm it, can Alberta interpret that as bad faith under the Clarity Act? And would our Premier make a unilateral declaration of independence?
I've asked her. She's not saying anything.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you what. She's in a perfect position. Both sides want this referendum. Lukaszek says he doesn't want it, but why did he go get 400,000 signatures if he doesn't want it? His question is a policy question. It's a moot question. It's a nothing burger according to Justice Feasby. Ours is a constitutional question. According to the Clarity Act, it has to be a standalone question. So the Premier can just absolutely sit and let it happen, which is what I would recommend. But I would also like to task her on getting us a succession plan, which I've already asked her for, and she said they're not working on it. But I think that as this has now become a reality, I think that I'm going to ask again, so that they can put Albertans at ease that, on day 2, day 3, day 4, that nothing's going to change. The traffic is going to be the same. BC's going to send their trains across Alberta. We're still going to ship oil to the south. We're still going to ship oil to BC and Ontario. All that is going to continue to work. And then once we have a reassurance that that goes, then we can make all manner of things. We'll have a constitutional conference in 2 months, change the rules. They're on schedule to have an election in 2027. We can continue on that schedule based on the new rules that we have. If we have a constitutional conference and government is not involved and the citizens of Alberta approve it, that's how Kosovo declared their independence. So there's another path there. The other thing is that I firmly believe that, there's lots of things that Ireland got its independence through the Statute of Westminster. There's a different path there. There's another path that if 2 countries recognize Alberta as a free and independent nation, there's a path there. But the path that we're committed to is the Clarity Act and making sure that that works for everybody involved.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you bet.
Hey, my name is Matthew. Just had a quick question for you. So when we see crimes being committed by the government, right? So, for example, Emergencies Act was declared unlawful, right, during COVID. So why is it that we as citizens can't punish the government for their acts?
Because we don't try to.
Yeah.
We don't do it.
So how come we don't?
Well, I don't know. You want to go sit on the steps? The truckers did the closest thing to trying to get awareness to that. If everybody in Canada had gone to sit on the steps of the ledge in Canada, like they did in Bulgaria, that would have made it happen. Okay. It's up to us. Everything is up to us. And once we have to get away from that group of people. We talk about money as being the most important thing. I think the social aspect of this is going to be at least as important or more important for us. If we get away from that, anything's possible. So I really believe that. And as far as holding government accountable, that's going to be up to us to do forever. So the new Constitution is going to be there. We'll have the opportunity to change the laws. If we change the laws, then away we go.
Okay. Yeah, because, sorry not to keep you, but the one thing I really refer to is look at what William Wallace did in Scotland, right? He fought for his own people. He fought against the English, right? So why is it, I know you answered the question already, but I encourage all of you to sit here and just really think about what the government has done to each and every one of us, the jobs we've lost, the future of our children, right? I'm 22 years old. I'm fighting for everyone, and including for you guys as well. So I'm so sick and tired of this, okay? I'm done.
Thank you.
Freedom.
Thank you. All right, good, thank you. Hello.
Hey, there's a fellow who's doing a podcast in Australia right now about the destructive aspect of their family court system, and they're losing 23 men a week to suicide because of it. Do you guys have any plans?
I didn't hear most of that. Get closer to the mic.
There's a fellow who's doing a podcast in Australia about the destructive aspect of their family court system.
Okay.
And they have very reliable data that they're losing 23 men a week to suicide because of the family court system. And they have a population of 27 million. So I guarantee you with the geniuses that we have here, we're doing similar numbers. So is there any chance that if this goes through, we can open up a dialogue as to how to fix this nonsense?
I hope so.
Well,
I don't.
There's a lot of talk
I
about
wasn't
how
aware
bad
of
the
any of
liberals
that.
are.
I wasn't aware of any of that, but you know
Yeah.
what? Everything, well, the way I look at this is we have to change what's going on in the schools. We have to change what's going on in agriculture. We have to change what's going on in our medical system. We have to change all of that, and it's going to be up to us. So that's the way this works. So as
Yeah.
far as changing that kind of stuff is concerned,
But there's a lot of talk about the Liberals, and there's 400,000 people that work for the government here, and every single time you phone them, you hear the exact same thing. No, you just don't understand, and then they figure out a reason to hang up on you. So if there's guys committing suicide and there's guys getting handed emergency protection orders for doing absolutely nothing, where they can't see their kids for 9 months to a year, and it costs them minimum $70,000. So Tamara Leach and Chris Barber went through the court system for 3.5 years. Most men have about a 4, 5, 6 year sentence with the family court system, where your kids get lit on fire. So I'd like to have a conversation with cleaning up our own backyard if this is going to go through, because Danielle Smith and the rest of them, Dane Lloyd doesn't impress me at all.
well, I gotta tell you, let's go there. We've been taking care of, that's what we're doing here. That's why this is an Alberta thing. There's a very simple way. I'm a UCPCA chair. I'll explain that to you. We got 22 CAs in Alberta to agree to a motion. We can have any motion and take it to the government and make a change. Because that's how we fired Jason Kenney.
Okay, well, when I phoned the Alberta Law Society to just ask them, like, what's going on, I had someone who spoke to me like a human being, and that's a rarity these days, and she said that when she picks up the phone at 8 o'clock in the morning and hangs it up, all she hears is a carbon copy of my story. So I'd like to know why Danielle Smith and the rest of the people in this country don't want to do anything about that.
Well, I can't answer that question. I'm really sorry I can't, but I mean, talk to your MLA and talk to lots of MLAs. Right now, that's all we can do. Sorry about that. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name's Scott. I got a question about the First Nations. How is that going to play out? What's their role going to be? How much power do they have? There's a court case coming up in April. They're going to try and stop us. Could you speak a little bit as to what that would look like as of now and going forward after? Thank you.
Well, as far as First Nations power is concerned, I think that's the most unclear subject. That's the muddiest water in Alberta. They have some form of power. They own 1.5% of the land in Alberta. They've ceded all their land rights, whether they want to admit it or not, they have. I've been told that, you know what, there's not going to, I've been told by government that they have very little appetite to actually reopen the treaties, if any at all. So this is, I've had conversation with Aboriginal chiefs. I would like them to come along and we could come up with a program to pull them out of third world poverty. That would be an absolute wonderful thing that I could support. I see it happening firsthand at Cold Lake First Nations, and they're doing a remarkable job there. So I would think that that would be, we could use that as the model. But as far as, you know, all of us will be better off. So as a consequence to that, I think we should take care of them and make them better off and drag them right along with us. And as far as, you know, I live in the middle, the worst thing that could happen to them, as far as I'm personally concerned, is that they could continue to have what they have. And I don't see that being a problem. Like, they could maintain their nations within the province. They could have their hunting, fishing, trapping rights. They could have their mobility rights, and they could get paid by Ottawa. I mean, if that, and they've actually shared with me personally, they said that would suck. And I would have to agree with them, because I think this is the biggest opportunity they're going to have to get out from under the Indian Act that they've ever had. And I think, you know what? Intelligent, competent people can come up with a better path for everybody, including them.
Hi, I just wanted to speak on being a woman here in Alberta. I was born in Edmonton, and 10 years ago, the people that bought my strip mall where my business was, 2 of the 3 wouldn't shake my hand because I'm a woman. And I questioned the idea of, why are we letting these people in our country if they're going to take away my rights, my freedoms? I'm very scared of Sharia law, Islam, and I want to know that we as Albertans will fight that, because worldwide it's happening and everybody's scared, but it is not okay for that to be happening in Canada, and I just want to be sure that we're all on board for none of that in Alberta.
Hello, Mitch.
Hi.
Thank you for coming out tonight and
Well, thank you for
bringing the
coming out.
passion. And my name is Mike. I just had a quick comment and a question. You were talking about fear and how people get trapped in a loop of fear, and I heard that acronym where fear stands for false evidence appearing real, or you can face everything and rise, which you are doing. You're taking things head on and you're leading a great charge. And I just had a question of what gives you your strength. I think I have a clear idea, but I just want to, what gives you this strength being able to put so much on your shoulders and rise and lead a great charge?
Because I love Alberta and Albertans. That's basically it. And I'm going to share something with you. This is kind of personal, but I've never been a religious person up until 2 years ago.
Okay.
And now I understand that the fact that a humble shopkeeper from northeastern Alberta is leading the freedom movement, I just don't see how that happened, to be quite honest with you. But I gotta tell you what I did. I had and I'm not inviting this, don't get me wrong here. I had a meeting, a friend of mine is a minister, and 3 or 4 years ago when we made a decision to go down this path, we understood that there might be consequences. And I'm pretty much at peace with it. So I'm not afraid of them at all. So as a consequence to that, I come here and talk to all of you. And yeah, so that's just, I don't know, I don't understand it. I just know that I'm peaceful, and I know what has to be done, so I come out and do it every night. That's the first time I've ever been asked that, so I'm kind of off guard there.
Appreciate that, thank you.
All right, one more.
Hi there, my name's Roland. The question I have for you tonight, you're doing door knocking and someone says someone should blow your effing head off. What's the good thing to say or not to say?
Oh, good thing to say or not to say? The good thing not to do is get in a fight. If they're going to give you a hard time, just thank them and move to the next door. Because you're going to get, we have lots enough people on our list that are going to be friendlies that we can win this already as far as this part of it. The next part of it is going to be up to us to get the information out so that people understand the real benefits. And it's going to be up to us to actually share with people the real dangers of not going down this path. And I think those are the two things that we're going to task ourselves with doing, is making all Albertans understand how much better off they could possibly be, and understanding that this may turn out very badly for them if they don't have the courage to stand up for themselves. Yes, sir.
So my name is Richard Kaler. I would like to know if there is somewhere online a copy of a presentation, perhaps this one will come up.
This one?
Your remarks tonight have been hugely informative and very powerful.
I have a, and I will give it to you after I'm leaving, before I'm leaving here. The one I did at Calgary at the Big Four, I have on my phone, and I'll share with anybody in the room that wants it. No problem. Thank you.
There are people, there's so much information that needs to be, that I need to get to other people that I just don't have it all at my fingertips. A presentation like this, if somebody look at for online, would be an excellent informative tool.
Thank you. Max, you have that presentation on your website, do you not? Max?
Yep, it's on freedomcanada.net, is live streaming right now. And all these slides, including this one, it's actually embedded in the live stream. So
yeah,
if you want to take a look, if you want to see it, you can come and see me. I can text you the live streaming link so you can take a look at this.
Yeah, so tonight's event was live streamed, so you can actually get this one. And then you could, if you like, you can get the one in Calgary, which was shorter, consciously shorter, because I was by myself here tonight, and there was 3 presenters in Calgary, so I knew that I could go over time and deal with it all. Jeff was supposed to be here, so my part wouldn't have been as long. Then we go ahead, sir.
Hi, another good performance, Mitch. It's Dan Hastings from Edmonton. Now, American energy analyst Doomberg, who's notable because 15 months ago he predicted that the Liberals were going to give Trudeau the boot and put in a guy named Mark Carney, and that he was going to win a majority government. Yeah. Now, since no one can predict the future, that's important. So last week he told, now he's got 500,000 subscribers, that he's been to every civilized country in the world where they produce oil. And so that leaves out Venezuela. But generally speaking, the thing was in the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Norway, any of these places, people were evidently wealthy. And he said the only two exceptions were Alberta and Saskatchewan. And he noted that Saskatchewan is actually the wealthiest place in the Western Hemisphere. And his question as an American analyst to the Canadian guy who was interviewing him was, you know, we are just amazed that people in Alberta who are profitable but who are comfortable but live modestly, and people in Alberta who are struggling more than any other wealthy people on the planet, how long they can be expected to put up with this. And so the question really is, what do you think? Do you think that is a message that will get out, first of all? And second of all, is Saskatchewan coming along because the two of us would be unbeatable?
So I've met with the Saskatchewan Prosperity Project has actually copied us. So at the Prairie Rising Conference I did in Regina, they actually came and they met with me. I took them on tour for a week. The leader of the Saskatchewan Prosperity Project. They're doing this very same thing as us. The only thing is that they have different rules than we have. So in order for them to succeed, it's a different path. But yeah, so no, yeah, absolutely, they're absolutely happy to come. So is Northern BC. In actual fact, the Yukon's has been saying things like this, and Quebec for sure. So there's a lot of people in Canada that are not happy with the Liberals.
And doesn't the Clarity Act also say that parts of provinces can if their neighbor is separating, can join that neighbor or something?
I don't
similar?
know that, but that would be really good. Northern BC would be a real good add-on.
Well, it might be an opportunity for the people in BC to grow brains, but anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Jane. I have a couple questions here.
Yeah.
The first question is, it's for the younger generation. They're concerned about not having dual citizenship. Is that something, dual citizenship with Canada? They don't want to lose their
Okay, so I can answer that right now. Let's do that one first.
Okay.
Okay, so you will not lose your citizenship. Once you're subject to the Crown, you will stay subject to the Crown forever, for life. Carney has 3 passports. Well, they can keep their Canadian citizenship and move back and forth in and out of Canada, that's for sure. And that applies to old-timers for the Canada pension. If you've been paying for it your whole life, you're a Canadian. Every pension has a portability clause. They have to pay it to you. And you can live anywhere in the world and collect it. So that's question 1. Go ahead.
Okay, question 2. Okay, hang on. I gotta get my train of thought. Just jump train track. Second question.
I should have let you ask them both at once.
I should have. I should have said both. Seniors.
Yes.
Now, I know that the other side has been going into the seniors' buildings and talking and hammering on them hard. Same with the younger generation. Mm-hmm. The seniors concern me, and they're getting swayed away from not even looking at this, and that's really bothering me.
So, from my perspective, that's why we're going to double their pension.
That's one thing.
That's the reason. First of all, I think they deserve it. That's the first thing.
Right.
Because I don't believe they should be living in poverty. No. The second thing is we can do it easily, and I would like that to happen just as a feel-good moment for everybody involved.
We'll have the money.
And we'll have the money.
We'll have the money.
And why shouldn't they get it?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more little question. Once we become a nation of our own country, the governing, we will dump I hope we will dump the British type of Parliament, like what they have?
The Westminster
and
system?
Gone.
The system that's designed on the honor system?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. We have to
Okay.
have, the whole Westminster system was designed for people that were honorable. So if you embarrassed the monarch, you would have to resign. So that was the way the whole system was. So they called it the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Canada. That did not apply to Justin Trudeau.
No.
It doesn't apply to Mark Carney. They're not honorable. They're breaking laws in front of everybody's face, and they absolutely think that it's their right to do so. So they're kings, so they don't believe they're parliamentarians. So we have to set up a system that is going to have checks and balances, that will make them equal to us,
And
that will have
transparency.
justice.
Yeah.
And we will. It's already in our Constitution. Elected judges,
And people would
quarterly
have
audits.
control.
Yeah, that's the biggest, most important thing we'll do is control government.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 2 more questions.
Okay, this is all kind of new for me, the political realm and everything else. So I have a couple of questions. Number one, you had mentioned when we become an Alberta independent place, that there's basically going to be consequences for it. Now, do we have a defense system? Because the globalists or the elites or the Luciferians, whatever you want to call them, the group, they're not going to want to let Alberta go.
No,
Okay,
I don't.
and it can manifest in physical battle, right? So have you made, or was there talks with US, like will they come and defend Alberta?
I can't answer that.
It's confidential right now?
I can't answer that either.
Pardon? Okay, so, okay, here's a second question then, perhaps.
You're to assume that we've never had that conversation.
Okay. It did not exist.
It did not exist.
It did not exist. Okay.
No, there's no record of it either.
Okay. Because people don't want to be left unarmed. Okay, like you talk about, I mean, we know that this is not just a physical battle, it's a spiritual battle.
Oh, I'm totally aware of that.
100%. But it will manifest in a physical realm.
Possibly.
Right? So, and that's just kind of like, I'm totally bought. We have to make a choice. We have to make a choice.
Yes.
Staying in Canada is not really a choice, and we have to take that step. We have to take that risk.
I firmly believe that.
Right?
Yes.
But when I talk to people about it, strangers, people I know, you know, they need to have more information about what's the plan. You know, we have some areas that's the plan, but before they sign, they kind of want to know what the plan is, right?
Do you know who the biggest group of people that are holding out on us is?
Who?
Women.
I'm up here.
Women. Surprisingly enough, it's girls. It's I'm seeing lots of husbands that agree with this, and lots of wives that don't. They're afraid of the instability. So that's something that we're definitely going to address.
Okay. I think that's it for now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Don't call me, sir. It's too
Yeah,
much,
okay,
too
just
much
lift-
responsibility.
I can hear you. Just lift that mic up a bit so I can hear you, because I've shot too many shotgun shells in my life and I get tinnitus. Go ahead.
I'm unarmed.
What do you got going on there?
Hey, most of us took this in school. First question, I just got a couple. First question is, what do they call this continent?
What do they call this continent? North America.
It's coming.
What's that?
It's coming.
This province?
It's coming.
What's coming?
North America. That's the next name.
Oh, okay.
My question I have, if I heard you right, the oil from here, you guys get, it's in U.S. currency?
Yes, everybody gets paid in U.S. currency, in U.S. dollars. We sell our oil in U.S. dollars.
Yes. So when you're just, my question is, do all the employees and the people that work for the oil companies get paid in U.S. dollars?
Depends where they live. If they live here, they get paid in Canadian dollars.
But isn't that an exploitation?
Say again?
Isn't that exploitation?
No.
No?
No, because the dollar has a value whether it's Canadian or U.S. You just get paid more Canadian dollars. It's the same thing. Like if you go to if you go to ask Imperial Oil for a job and they say you're going to make 130 or 140,000 Canadian dollars a year, and they sell their oil in US dollars, that's no concern of the employee. I have lots of friends that work for SO and Cenovus, and they make big money. And and they get paid in Canadian dollars. So I mean, just the currency. I buy and sell in US dollars too, and I pay my employees in Canadian dollars because that's the currency that we use here.
No worries, I'm on your side, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I know. I'm scared of the question.
I can't wait for the Benjamins. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much, everybody. I'll be up here if you want to ask a question that you're too shy to ask. I don't have any problem with it. Thanks for attending. It was awesome. Does anybody else? There you go. Take
Yeah,
over.
we'll sign us out here. Again, thank you everyone for coming tonight. And thank you to Mitch. I can promise you this, after we win this, I will be leading the charge to build statues and to have school children sing songs about him. All right. So, last little bits of housekeeping. Merchandise table, including some brand new unique items that are not even available on the internet. Donation table. This is a citizen-acted and citizen-funded initiative. We don't have George Soros in our back pocket. It would be great if we did, but we do not. So if you had a couple of bucks and could throw it in a yellow bucket on your way out, please do. And if you saw something tonight that made you want to sign the petition, the canvassers are in the back left-hand corner. Please sign, take that opportunity, because if not, we're going to be knocking on your door and giving you another chance at some point, so you can't get away from us. Thank you all for coming tonight. God bless.
Also, if you have some time, please, we need help for the chairs. We need to vacate, we need to leave the building at latest 10 p.m.